Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 47 of the Wulong Talks podcast, or otherwise known as part two of our Avengers Infinity War review and discussion. Now, hopefully, you've come to us after listening to part one. If you haven't, go back to the page that you found this on and listen to part one, because that's where we're talking in detail about the movie. But what we're going to do here in part two is we're going to talk a little bit about the end of the movie and what we think the implications of that are. We're going to throw in some of our theories for that. And we're also going to answer your questions as well. So thanks to everybody who sent in questions. There was a lot of them. So we'll try and work through as many as we can. But first of all, as you know, I'll be joined here by the usual crew. So Big A, the Man Geek, is up north, is with me. So Big A, say what's up.
What's up?
And the Rusting Kid is battling a kitten that he's terrified of. So he may be distracted at times. But Rich Kid, say what's up.
Listen, it's not a joke, man. He's generally distressing me right now because I'm trying to concentrate on two things. But yeah, what's happening, people?
And of course, we're joined by our two guests from part one as well. Nigel from Mayamada. Nigel, welcome back.
Hey, what's happening?
Cool.
Also, I want to find out what's going on with this cat.
I know. This is
gripping.
like this is becoming a better subplot
Yeah.
than any the last year. Because it's got twists, it's got turns, it's got drama, violence.
Stop.
Like, a lot.
Sorry. Give me stop. Is that is
it's
generally
not
happening?
right.
Pardon?
You can't tell cats what to do.
No. Like I've been teaching it basically. Like when it tries to hit me with its claws, like when I say put your claws away, it actually puts its claws away. So I'm trying to get him into that frame of mind. I did it with an ex-girlfriend who had a cat. I managed to do that with her as well. Whereas like
Oh, so you're a cat whisperer. I get it. Okay.
I'm not a cat whisperer. I just want to save myself, bro.
Well, in between all of that, we've also got our other special guest. Mr. O has rejoined us. Mr. O, welcome back, man.
Good evening, everyone, and like everyone else, I'm as gripped into this cat saga as anyone else.
Yeah, I guarantee you it's going to promise a few thrills while we do this podcast, listeners. So, so listen out for that. All right, guys. Well, yeah, said we kind of talked a lot about the movie in detail in the first podcast. So we didn't really get to talk about the end of the movie and the significance of it and what it means going forward. So, in terms of like theories and things like that, first of all, how did you like that final scene? I guess like is the too strong a word to use considering what happened, but were you surprised to see the finger snap at the end of the movie? And as usual, I'll go to Big A. So Big A, you can kick us off, man.
No, I wasn't surprised at all, man, because Gamora said that shit anyway. You know what I mean? That was just foreshadowing for it. So if anyone was paying attention, it's definitely going to happen. And I love it when fucking the good guys lose, especially, you know what? The MCU characters have had struggles, but they've never lost on this scale. And for half of the life in the universe to be lost because they didn't succeed, that's a massive failure. And I like seeing the good guys fail sometimes. It's cool.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's what adds for drama. Absolutely. Mr. O, in terms of like when Thanos snapped his fingers and the screen went white, you talked about that a little bit in the part one, but in part two, can you just elaborate a little bit more on the kind of how that shook you? Because I know you're a comic book fan and
No claws. Sorry.
know what the you, you know what the implications of that are. So yeah, could you just give us a little bit about what you thought of that?
I liked the way I liked the fact that you didn't really know who was gonna go,
Mm,
and only as people were standing there, they were talking. One minute they were fine, and then like they just disappeared. Like I remember the head of the Dora Milaje, like her face when T'Challa disappeared. She
mm,
was like, "Wait, whoa, wait, this is new."
mm.
So everyone, it could have been anyone.
Mm,
And, implication wise, that you're kind of torn between what you know and what you just want to watch and
mm,
see what happens. So there's a lot of implications, a lot of theories.
mm.
Um, But an excellent ending because it literally just ended with, one of the most important moments in Marvel Comics history, which is Finger Snap.
Mm, mm. Yeah, very much so, man. Very much so. Nigel, how about you? I mean, in terms of the way that the movie ended, were you shocked at any of the characters that vanished after the finger snap?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said in the initial bit, I thought there were certain characters that I guess protected is the word, because we know there'll be more films. We know certain actors have certain contracts. You kind of, I didn't expect them to. I'm doing air quotes here, but kill off certain characters. So, in a way, I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised because I did want to see some deaths in this. As sadistic as that sounds, I wanted to see consequence. And like you guys were saying, when Gamora was foreshadowing, Thanos snaps his fingers. Even Thanos was saying in some of his rationale how on Titan becoming overpopulated and him coming up with a solution to just at random take out half the population to solve that issue. So even there, he was like saying what's going to happen. So yeah, you kind of expected to get to this point, and I guess I was just glad to see it followed through. Now, don't know what's going to happen in the next one, but at least where we are now, glad to see like consequence in the film. So characters losing, characters dying. So yeah, no, it was a good place to end it.
Absolutely. I mean, I was shocked when it happened, to be honest. I
Yeah,
did not expect it at all. Which is
the
odd
cinema went
because
quiet.
I know like that storyline inside out, especially the original Infinity Gauntlet storyline that Chip Darling worked on. I know it inside out, and that's a key moment in the movie. Sorry, in the comic book. And I was kind of like, are they going to do it, or are they going to like let him get all of them, but find a way to protect Vision? And then, maybe in the second movie is when he gets hold of the Mind Stone from Vision, and then we see it. But yeah, for the way it played out, and for the finger snap, and then for people to start turning into ash really slowly and methodically, was just so well done, man. It just was, yeah. That just gave me chills, like pretty much everything else in the movie. It really did give me chills. Rich Kid, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah,
Oh, okay, you giving up fighting the cat?
yeah.
So what was your take on kind of the way the movie ended, as said, with the finger snap and the importance of it?
I think it was done. It was done perfectly and so smart, because obviously I think with the Russos, I think basically what they did is that they know how the MCU now is. They know that there's countless YouTube channels that that will be able to give you rundowns of the Infinity Gauntlet, so you don't actually have to go into the shop and read it. You've got digital downloads that you can just download. I think Marvel Comics were giving away reprints of like the first issue of the Infinity Gauntlet for free. I mean, basically, like you've got people now that are able to do their research, and the significance behind it is because, if I remember correctly, the first issue of Infinity Gauntlet, the snap of the fingers is the first thing that happens that alerts everybody to come and fight Thanos in the first place. So for them to save it at the end, where basically, like you said, it's almost like they were leading you down, leading you to a false sense of security, where basically it might be that thing of that he gets 5 stones. And then basically the next episode is basically them, maybe trying to keep Vision safe and XYZ. So for them to literally just pull that off at the end, it just felt natural and so true to the story that I was just like, wow, they really did it. It was a really, really like good ending. It was a smart and well put together ending that I don't think anybody saw. People might have thought they would do it, maybe in the second part, but no, I don't believe anybody believed. I don't believe anybody thought that they were gonna do the snap of the fingers at the end of this episode.
Yeah, that's true. I think it really came out of left field. I don't think anybody really kind of saw it coming, I guess. Um,
And
so yeah,
it was so sudden. I mean, as I was saying before, Thor hit him in the chest, drove it in a little bit more, said what he needed to say, and then he said it. He said, "Oh, you should hit me in the head," and then the screen went white. And like I said, that moment where it just went white, everyone sort of just saw it. And then it went to that scene where Thanos was talking to the young Gamora, and you were like, what?" There was that moment where you were just like,
Yeah, what's happened?
"What?
It's like,
Did he do it? Did he? It looks like he did, but I'm not sure." And then people started to turn to Ash. So again, done very well.
mm, mm. Yeah, very much so, very much so. So with kind of the fateful snap happening, and heroes vanishing from existence. Where do you think that leaves us going into Avengers 4? Because the characters that disappear are are all, give or take, characters that we would expect to see in the future of the MCU. Spider-Man has a sequel that's filming right now. Um, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 we know is coming. Black Panther 2 hasn't been confirmed yet, but we know that they're working on it because Kevin Feige said they're working on it. So we know a number of these characters that have disappeared are likely to reappear. Um, but do you guys think, for example, that there may be um, a way in which they use this event to kind of explore things like the quantum realm, which we touched upon in Ant-Man, and the idea of multiverses, which has existed for a long time in the comic books, but hasn't really been addressed by the movies as such. Do you see kind of anything like that? I guess is what I'm saying. So basically, what I'm asking you is, give me your conspiracy theories for what you think is going to happen. Um, Rich Kid, do you want to go first?
I've got quite a few. I was actually just thinking about it now. I think there's definitely going to be mention of the multiverse. I mean, the multiverse is mentioned in Doctor Strange anyway. And then, like you said, and then obviously where Doctor Strange is set. Remember, I think Doctor Strange is set, what, 2014? Is it 2014 Doctor Strange is set? And then Avengers Infinity War is set in our period now. So there's obviously, you've seen the power set of Doctor Strange increase. So now he's able to view different different takes of events and how it can be won or can be lost. So there's the mention of it there. The quantum realm is something that I'm always throwing out there because I think it's a dimension that could lead to some interesting things. But I'm really interested in seeing if they do, and there has been some form of mention of it. Soul World. That's what I'm interested in seeing. And I've actually just had a bit of a brain fart. And I've been sitting down, just coming up with loads of different theories. Now, check this. Just imagine if Thanos is dead. There's no reason to say that he actually survived, if anything. I'm just saying. So basically, the last time we see a Thanos have a conversation with a small Gamora, which looks like me to be the Soul World, and the Soul World that I do know and how it generally does. The Soul World that we see Gamora in is how Soul World looks now in the revamp of the Infinity Stones in Marvel Comics. Where we see Thanos at the end of the film is how Soul World looked in the 90s, where it was like lush green forest and like little towns and villages and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if I'm even answering the question properly, but literally I'm just my mind is just running wild. So I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's a place that I'd like to see explored, in this next episode.
Cool. No, that's an interesting idea, actually. The idea that Thanos might be dead. I mean, yeah, it's definitely left field. I'll say that. It's something definitely audiences wouldn't see coming at all. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, good start, Rich. Thank you. Nigel, any thoughts?
I I have no thoughts other than my big conspiracy theory is that Hawkeye is still in this film somewhere and may get a feature in the next one. And that's it. Yeah, he's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But oh, you're going to say something?
Yeah. No. So finish your thing. I was actually going to say something that I didn't mention in the last episode, but sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
Well, I'm just listening to you talk about the multiverse. I'm just wondering how, if they are going to bring certain characters back, how they're going to do it. So I'm really interested in how they translate things that have been done in the comic stories to screen and how they navigate that to please comic fans, but also just your everyday moviegoer, how they kind of, just cross that bridge. But I've got no firm theories on it myself.
Cool, fair enough. Richard, before I go to Mr. O, did you want to come in with what you wanted to say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was literally just a scene. I've got like another theory, so if we're going to be bouncing the theories around, but I was going to mention in the last episode, but did it not surprise anybody when Thanos mentions or refers to Tony Stark by his name? Did somebody mention that in the last episode? But if they did, I apologize if I'm repeating it. But did that not throw anybody off like a bit left field? Like the reason why I'm saying is like he refers to him as his name. That's the thing. Yeah, and I found that very, very interesting.
Well, he says after he says his name, he says, "You're not the only one who's cursed with knowledge."
Yeah.
Which
but
means that. Well, I'll tell you how I saw it. I guess it means that he and Tony Stark, in some ways, are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
Tony Stark is a person who, because of the events that he's gone through, has made it his business to be observant of everything that is going on around him, and to be aware of kind of developments within the world. Although how he missed Wakanda, I don't know. But there you go. But I took it to mean that Thanos, in the literal sense, Thanos is Tony Stark in that way, in a sense that he is also aware of all of these different things. I mean, he probably, depending on what his position was at the Battle of New York in Avengers 1, he may well have even observed Tony Stark flying that nuke through the wormhole, and then possibly have used his network and his spies to find out Wagwan. So it could again lead to us having spies on Earth who are working on his behalf, agents who are working on his behalf, and things like that. So yeah, I kind of took it to mean that. But you go ahead and finish your point.
No, I was going to say that basically, I think that Thanos is able to do research, and I was saying this to Alvin the other day. I think there's going to be some form of time travel involved. So I reckon Doctor Strange giving the time gem to Thanos is actually the one win that he witnesses when he goes to have a look through the multiverse, and Tony Stark is the linchpin. And I think that Thanos, in one way or another, has already seen himself have this whole battle and is essentially trying to win as well. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I'm just going off like stuff that I've read in the Infinity Gauntlet comic. And there's an episode where at the end where Adam Warlock comes to seek guidance from Thanos because he finds kinship in somebody else who's experienced godhood. And it's one of those things where Adam Warlock goes to him and says, they have this conversation, and it's like, every time I come to see you, you give me this information. And Thanos basically says, yeah, I knew you would. And then Warlock looks at him as if to say, like, what do you mean you knew you would? And it's like, I've been God. So there's a certain amount that I've touched upon that is still with me, and I'm privy to this knowledge. It's like I've reached a certain type of enlightenment. So I'm thinking to myself that could be something as well, where like time travel and Tony Stark is the linchpin, and the battle is basically to take the whole thing is to get this Infinity Gauntlet, and the only way for him to win is to take Tony Stark out, and to do that is going to be some form of time travel. So we've already said that there's pictures from the Battle of New York. So I was saying to Alvin, like, basically, can you imagine like the actual Battle of New York itself with the Avengers fighting against the Chitauri, but in the background, you've got the core Avengers. So you've got Iron Man, you've got Thor, you've got Hulk, you've got Black Widow, you've got Hawkeye, actually battling other Chitauri in the background, and they're the actual reason why the Avengers are able to win the Battle of New York. Like I said, I've had a bit of chocolate. My mind is running. I'm just talking for talking. I'm just talking what the person that comes out of my mouth. So yeah, but sorry, guys,
that's
carry
all right.
on.
The
Yeah,
question was
no,
about
it's
theories,
interesting though.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was about theories, and he gave a theory. So no, that's perfectly legit. Mr. O, any conspiracy theories that you've got for Avengers 4 and how things may play out?
I'm locked in on the Doctor Strange decision to give up time gem. The one
Yeah.
because I remember earlier when Tony was saying, "Why don't we just throw it in the dumpster?" And him and Wong were like, "Well, no, we've given our lives to protect the time gem. We can't do that." And as soon as Tony's life was on the line, Doctor Strange gave it up. Boom.
Yeah,
And he said, and he also did say before that, if it comes between saving your life and protecting this thing, I'm gonna protect this thing.
Hmm.
And when it came to Tony's life, he gave it up. So I'm thinking that he's seen something that hopefully they put in motion. But again, I've seen some aspects of the Battle of New York, but with Ant-Man also there, which kind of lends to that brain fart theory Richard just had about, going back and, them being the actual reason for the Battle of New York, or for them actually winning the Battle of New York. But when you were watching the Avengers the first time, you didn't know, so it makes you go back and then forward. And then there's Captain Marvel. That also theory about Thanos having a spy on Earth. I really possibly think that could be Hawkeye being a scroll.
like it. I like it. That's
Yeah.
kind of crossed my mind as well. I like it.
I've heard this before.
He's not at all. And again, I think Ant-Man's gonna have something to do with the time travel because again he's missing from this, but he's also included in the film, either one or two. And because he wasn't in the first one, I think him and the Captain Marvel bit at the end, I was like, yay, cool. Excellent. Also,
Oh. Sorry, when you finish, I got one more thing, but carry on.
go for it. Tag on.
Okay. Check it.
Hey, by the way, don't take too long because Alvin hasn't spoken yet.
Fuck Alvin. All right, so okay, all right. So check it. So we're talking about time travel, yeah, or multiverse. Now, the speech that Tony Stark gives to Loki. Imagine if they do time travel and basically because if you think about it, the only person who ever gets second privy knowledge or knowledge of anything that's come to pass is Tony Stark. Tony Stark has a vision when he touches the Tesseract in Age of Ultron. Nick Fury comes to see Tony Stark to say, "Listen, shit's about to go down." He's that person. So imagine Tony Stark going back in time and telling him what's happening and telling him the only way to win is to do X, Y, Z. But the Tony Stark that he sees is the one that takes place before the Battle of New York. So that speech that he gives to Loki isn't just referring to the Battle of New York. It's referring to everything. And is that, that line where he basically goes like, "Don't you see, there's no way in which you can win this. Like, there's X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah." But that's just, like I said, my mind's running. So I just got a bit excited on that. So sorry for interrupting. Carry on.
I'm liking these theories though.
All right, Alvin, have you got any conspiracy theories that you want to share?
Not conspiracy theories. I mean, a lot of the time travel stuff does sound kind of, pretty legit because of the set photos and whatnot. So it's pretty certain that there's going to be some time travel aspect in there, unless we're completely wrong and there's some kind of flashback which will allude to something. If Hawkeye is a Skrull, wouldn't it have to be sometime after he had his third child? So sometime after Age of Ultron, if that was the case. The Quantum Realm is in Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I don't think they'll be delving into that in Infinity War Part 2 or whatever they ended up calling it. And yeah, I also thought the choice that Doctor Strange made to give him the Time Stone is definitely the thing that sets them down the road to victory. Like that's just gotta be. It's the only way it made sense to kind of give it to him. It'd either be that or dying fighting. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's already started. Whatever's supposed to sort everything out. But yeah, I like the time travel thing, but I don't really have any conspiracy theories of my own. I'm ready for them to kind of surprise me, because I reckon people come up with theories all the time, right? Like, remember the theory people saying, "Ah, the Soul Stone is Captain America. Look into his eyes. His eyes are kind
Yeah.
of like an orange." They were
Yeah.
completely wrong. You know, what I mean, some people are saying the same thing about Heimdall. It's like we
Yeah.
the time travel does seem in the right areas, but the other stuff is probably like, nah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's true. That is true. All right, fair enough. Well, let's dive into some of these audience questions now because we've got a couple here. So what I'll do is I'll throw a couple out to you guys, and you can spitball and give it your takes, man. But we'll start with a fun one for everybody. This comes to us from hashtag Blackout Podcast. Um, they're homies of ours. What's up, guys? And they said, "How many times did you guys yell 'Oh hell no' in the theater?" Which I quite like. So, Mr. O, like, I know you've been vocal about like your experience with the movie. So, how many times did you say "Oh hell no"?
I didn't throw out a hell no, but I threw out many. Oh shit! There were kids, and I looked at them, and the parents kind of looked at me, and I was like, "Look, I don't know what you want from me. This is Marvel. How many years I've been waiting for this? Who told you to be kids to this movie?" Anyway, see, that's another. Yeah, I at least between 5 to 10.
Okay, that sounds like a reasonable number, I would say. Yeah.
10, yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I can tell you exactly when I said oh hell no,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
or hell yes. So, like we discussed in the last episode, Hulk getting his ass handed to him. It's the choke. It's not even saying when he was holding the lips. It's the choke. It's just like boom, and he just goes and he holds his throat, and it's like, and like it was like I said before, it was genuine pain that you saw him in, and then the bit when he gets knocked out, and is like they kind of linger on him. Number one, he's bleeding, and number two, he's KO'd. It's not so like he's hurting and he's trying to get back up. No, he like if it was Street Fighter, you'd see the little Tweety birds above his head, like he was knocked out. That made me say, "Oh hell no." The end, I wouldn't say the end. The end when Black Panther disappeared made me say, "Oh hell no."
Yeah.
Vision getting killed twice made me say, "Oh hell no." And the one thing that made me say, "Oh hell yes," was the beeper at the end in the credit sequence. Yeah.
Yeah. I would concur with those. All right, let's move on to the next one. We've got one here from Yellow Rage Attacks. And she asked, when Thanos murdered half the cosmos, was it only the gauntlet that was destroyed, or were the Infinity Stones discharged as well? And who wants to take that one? Alvin.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it still worked because he then used the space stone to teleport away. So it must have still worked. Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like it was completely broken. It did look fucked because obviously it took a lot of power to do what it did. But I don't think it's like completely broken, and I don't think the stones were all in it when he used the space stone to get out of there. So from what I saw today, which refreshed my mind, it looked like that shit still worked to me.
Yeah, I would go with that as well. I think the gauntlet maybe is damaged, but not defective. And I think the Infinity Stones were definitely still in there from what I saw as well. So yeah, I think he's still unfortunately super powerful at this point. So yeah, there's probably going to be a lot more mayhem to come. Anybody else wanted to add anything on that one?
I'll tell you what would be really cool. This kind of goes into another conspiracy theory. Like you said, like Alvin, like you actually really, that's really good observation there, that he uses the reality gem. Sorry, the reality, the test, is it the space gem to teleport from one place to another? Yeah.
Yeah.
But imagine if one of the gems is now defective. And the reason why they haven't given the new title for the new Avengers film is because it's to do with, let's say, like another artifact in the Marvel universe, which they actually need to find that can repower the Infinity Gem or the Infinity Gauntlet. So the next episode could actually be them chasing Thanos instead of Thanos chasing them. So okay. I don't know. Yeah. So I reckon maybe one of the gems has actually been knocked out of sync, or it's not as powerful. Or you know what? It would even be better. Like one of the gems has cracked and it's kind of unstable, and that can affect everything else. Maybe the power gem, because the power gem is the source for all of the gems.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. I never thought of that. So yeah, that's a good theory. Good theory. All right, let's get into the next one. Right, so we've got one here from Jonathan. Jonathan, what's up? He asked, what happens next? Are all the heroes, or are all the dead heroes, and the future ones, still alive, or are the current heroes going to have to sacrifice themselves to bring the dead ones back? And I'll chuck that to Nigel.
Ooh, that is a good question. I want, like I was saying before, some people to stay dead, because then that whole thing about stakes and consequence, that just, it makes it more meaningful. I mean, I like the idea of maybe someone sacrificing themselves to save other people. I'm very interested to see how they do, because I'm kind of with Rich on his time travel theory. I'm with you on that brain fart, by the way. But like how they're gonna, how they're gonna sort of work people back into it, and how that's gonna tie in. But even if they do bring people back, it will be great if there is still some sacrifice, some cost to doing that in the film. So I'm going to go with that. I would like to see that. If they are going to bring people back, I like to think it will be at a cost.
Yeah.
When I say bring people back, I mean those that were turned to dust. I think anyone who died like directly at Thanos's hand is done. Like there's no hope for them. It's all the others at the end of the film.
Yep, makes sense to me. We've got another one here from Ills Nils. What's up, Ill? And the question is, and I'll chuck this to you, Mr. O. Where did Nick Fury get that gadget to send that message at the end?
10 years ago, Nick Fury. I think if you're like me and I go with Marvel, I go from the comics to the films, to the TV shows, to the theories, to the gossip, to the things that I learned through just being so addicted to all of this. Is that in the Captain Marvel coming, it's going to be set in the 90s. The actual character before she becomes Captain Marvel is apparently going to have a lot of interaction with Nick Fury, and he's going to have two eyes in this film. So it's kind of setting up something that you've already seen but you have no idea about. So I think that by the end of that film, we'll have a direct idea of how that whole pager thing came to make sense.
Okay.
Yep.
Actually, can I just say that as you're saying that, just I'm gonna stroke Marvel's ego here, but just how you're putting those two things, like the end credits linking to the next film, it's just a testament to how thought out this whole thing is on Marvel's behalf.
Yeah,
I think that's really impressive, because this is like 10 years of films, each one with their own after credit sequences that tie into future films that sort of link all these outcomes together. And I think that's just an impressive thing to do, to have that kind of foresight and patience to like have things pay off. Like even when you're talking about the Red Skull, and that's from the first Captain America to now, things paying off in that sense is just like amazing to see this kind of thing being put together.
And can I just also tack on to the end of the fact that the black man in me was supremely proud that Samuel L. Jackson was about to throw a mother. Minute, but just the fact that he was going for it.
Yeah. I mean that they're even paying off things in other people's films. That was from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
That's paying off now. Like, wow.
Yeah, that was. I love that. I love that moment, man. That was great. That just made my fucking day. I was like, motherfucker.
But the thing is, I'll tell you the thing I like about that, and it's the whole thing that everyone keeps on saying, that Marvel is for kids and DC and the DC universe, the cinematic universe is for adults. Have you guys noticed that in the last couple of films they've swore a lot more in these Marvel films?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like there was quite a few uses of the word.
Yeah, the S-bombs, wasn't there?
Yeah, quite a few S-bombs. And the thing that I like about the ending of, there's two things I like about the ending that you just said, where Samuel Jackson's about to say mother, the F word. Apart from the fact that this is like the second reference to a character that he's kind of played before. So like it'd be Jules. So remember the writing that's inscribed on his tombstone in Captain America Winter Soldier. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, is the verse that he and Jules says from Pulp Fiction. But then also, but then also the fact is that this is the second Marvel movie to end, give or take, with somebody about to swear at the screen. Because the same thing happens in Homecoming, which I think is easily one of the best bits, when Aunt May sees Peter in a costume, and she's like, "What the? Hey, ho, let's go. Hey, ho, let's go."
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I do like that. I do like that. Cool. That was a good question. Thanks very much for that one. Rich, I've got a question here that I'd like you to tackle. This is from
more talking
Tax as well.
Yeah.
And she asked for us to elaborate a bit on Captain Marvel. So basically, her power set, how she became or is likely to become involved with the Avengers in Avengers 4, and how you think she might be able to help. So, yeah, basically, based on your sort of knowledge of that universe, how do you think she might play into Avengers 4?
Well, let's put it this way. We already know that her film's going to be set in the 90s. So we know that she's easily one of the most experienced characters that the Avengers is gonna have on their roster. That's number one. And number two, she's based out in space. So she's already a veteran of what these people, of what everybody has managed to pull off so far in their career. And she's been doing it a lot longer from the sounds of it, if it goes according to how I think it's gonna go. Now the character of Captain Marvel is basically the female version of a character that was also called Captain Marvel, which Marvel Comics won the use to use that name in the okay, wait a minute, the cat's back. Shit. Shit.
Sure it's a cat and not a lion. Like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Probably the kid.
Okay, all right. But anyway, without trying to go into like the political side of like the how they can use the word, but the female Captain Marvel, I'll say females because there's the original one was male, whose name was actually Marvel, and he was a soldier for a spy for the Kree, sent to the Earth to come and spy on them, and he basically ends up giving Carol Danvers half of his Kree powers by altering her DNA. And she basically becomes the character of Captain Marvel. She's gone by quite a few different names with different with different skill sets and powers. And she's actually even been a part of like the X-Men and the Starjammers before as well. So just shit. Give me a second. Just go away. So I mean, if I start talking a bit more, it's actually going to go for too long because she's quite an established character, especially in the past few years. So so just take that information with you. No claws. Okay, sorry, this cat. So to listeners out there, I've got a kitten. Yeah, I've got a kitten and it's quite new and it's literally it's at that time of the night where it's just going crazy and trying to attack me and I'm generally kind of scared. I'm really gonna lie.
Well, let me finish off for Richard there. Basically, as he said, the character of Captain Marvel, this iteration is Carol Danvers. She's known quite well throughout the Marvel universe, especially the Marvel comic book universe, as Richard kind of touched on. In terms of how she might play out in Avengers 4, really interesting question. We'd have to kind of find out where she is. Possibly she's somewhere else in the galaxy, depending on what happens in the events of her film, because we know that part of her film will take her into direct confrontation with the Skrulls and with the Kree, so that assuming that that's the case, then she's not going to be on Earth, so she will be somewhere across the galaxy doing what we don't know. Perhaps she's trapped somewhere, and the heroes find out about her and have to go somewhere to free her. And then once she's free, she'll be able to help them. In terms of her powers are pretty much like off the charts. I mean, Kevin Feige was describing her as the most powerful character we're going to see in the Marvel universe, and because of the DNA that she's bonded with Captain Marvel, she takes on a lot of his powers. So think of like Superman, but with the ability to also kind of fire energy blasts from her hands. To be able to travel through space without the need of oxygen or anything like that. She's pretty powerful. So I imagine how she would play into it is, they're basically going to be like on their knees and in dire need of somebody who can at least match up to Thanos to an extent.
Another theory. Brain fart. One of the stones is cracked, and they need an alternative power source, or to either replace it or to charge up that stone that's been cracked. And like you just mentioned, Jay, the power level charts of Captain Marvel, which we are aware of from comic books, but in the MCU, there's nothing that's going to be seen like this. So I'm only thinking to myself, like, she could be an alternative power source. The power that she has, that she's able to absorb energy and basically fire it back, like, in an even more powerful way. So imagine if, like, that's the reason why she's actually in hiding, because she could be an alternative power source to something as well.
Yeah, that's a fair theory, I think.
Just another theory. The cat's left me alone now, so I just had to finish it. I'm still shook. I'm not even brave for nothing. I'm not even gonna lie.
Cool.
Oh, by the way, she's one of the.
Sorry, could you say it again, Mr. O? We just lost you.
Oh no, I said shout out to Yellow Rage. She's one of the homies.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's the OG. Okay. I'll throw this one to you, Alvin. Even though we were discussing it, this one comes to us from Raf FT on Twitter. Big up yourself, Raf. And the question is, how will they accomplish time travel in Avengers 4? So, assuming that the time travel is going to be the path that they go down, how in your head would you see that play out?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, you're probably thinking of time stone, but there must be another way. I'm trying to think of one.
I've got one. Sorry.
Go on.
Okay. And the thing is, like I said, some of these theories are going to be good. Some of these theories are just wild ones, just to what we'd consider, this is just verbal clickbait. So we already know that basically Marvel have acquired the rights to Fantastic Four, yeah? Or to Fantastic Four, right?
Yeah, well, they bought it, so they just own it now.
Yeah, so they don't own it. Yeah,
So they
yeah.
own
Okay, so
part of Fox.
the,
That's
the-
right.
okay, okay, so they own part of it. So imagine if, like, in a way to time travel, they bring in a character from the Fantastic Four, which is known, and this. Oh shit! Yep. Okay, it's coming. All right. So in Infinity right now, that's coming out. One of the characters who's actually involved in it is Kang the Conqueror. Ow! It's Kang. Ow! It's Kang the Conqueror. So
No, I don't think the cat likes your theory.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to tell you
The
something.
cat thinks your theory is shit, bro.
all right, okay. No. So check it. So one of the Fantastic Four characters is Kang the Conqueror. So that could be used as a time travel caveat for them to travel, and that can be a way of also bringing in a Fantastic Four by introducing a character that's already established with them.
Okay.
Yeah, could be.
That's number one, and don't forget number two. Kang the Conqueror is related to Reed Richards.
Could be. But again, I mean, we'd have to see because it's the problem is it's still very early days in that deal between Marvel and between Disney and Fox. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have enough time to put in Kang because from what I understand, they've basically finished filming it anyway. They're
Yeah.
just in post production now, and they would have had to have filmed it under the pretext that they wouldn't have had access to any other characters.
Yeah.
So from like a logistics point of view, it might be tricky to fit in Kang now. Funnily enough, I can definitely see Kang being like a villain of the MCU going forward. I think once everything's done and it's formalized and it's done, then Kang will definitely, I think, will definitely be a big part of the MCU going forward. I've just wondered if maybe Avengers 4 is a little too early for him, possibly. But maybe.
Yeah, I would also think the idea of introducing like another new character because they've got to be wary of like overloading on characters. So even though there will be new characters, like Captain Marvel and such, I imagine they'd want to find a solution that reduces the amount of new characters. 'Cause at some point, just your like again, the average moviegoer will just have there are too many characters to comprehend, like as sort of grand as that sounds, but you can only keep track of so many characters within your standard 2 hour, 2.5 hour film. So I reckon they must be aware of that and they want to find a solution. So maybe like Doctor Strange must be the key. We've already been introduced to him. We know he's done something, like you were saying about sort of the way he went from I'm never giving up the stone ever to yeah, here you go, have it. It must be part of the however many millions of possibilities that he went forward in time to view before finding the one. So I reckon it's got to be something around that involving that character to minimize the number of new characters they need to introduce to sort of find a solution here.
Also, I've just had a thought as well. Mr. O, do you remember the bath technology from Captain America Civil War?
Yes.
What about if they find some way to reverse engineer that so that it allows them to actually access the past, like literally allows them to access the past? Because on the surface, it's kind of what it does, but not quite. In a sense that it just allows you to replay certain scenes. But what if they find a way to kind of reverse engineer that? Would that be enough, do you think, to get them back into the past to then change events?
To get them back into the past, yes. But if you're, again, following the narrative from, I guess, past Winter Soldier, Civil War, and on, and again, with all the Marvel films that you've watched in between and learned, like with Doctor Strange, I think they would possibly go for something that has been introduced with a lot more focus on, for example, Ant-Man and the multiverse, Doctor Strange and the multiverse, and the miniverse, and the superverse, and the Asdaverse, and all that they've got, have different things going on. But with that, it'd be trying to bring back something again that they haven't really touched on or really had or given any premise to so far. So I think that'd be quite a reach. But then it's Marvel, so they could do that, and we'd watch it, and they'd make it work. And because we're heads for it, we'd actually understand it.
Yeah. I've got something to add to that because you mentioned like characters who are actually quite powerful and things have been introduced. We still need to remember, and I'm actually quite surprised because none of us have actually mentioned this, but Wong is still alive as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as we're aware, yeah.
Yeah, and the Sanctum Sanctorum is still there as far as we know, right?
True.
Yeah, so to a certain degree, they actually have a fair, safe place where I'm sure they can stock up on something that might be able to lead to some form of maybe time travel or multiversal travel as well, which could be interesting. Which I think could be interesting.
Okay. Well, Raf, you've got a lot of possibilities there, so I hope that answers your question. I think we've given you about 4 different possible theories, so hopefully that does the trick. All right, Alvin, don't get too comfortable. I'm coming to you again.
Okay.
This one, this is a simple one anyway, but this is from Nikki on Twitter, and she asked, "What happened to Valkyrie and Korg? Are they dead too?"
No. Joe Russo was at a university recently doing a Q&A. He said about Valkyrie that the ship, which I think is called Sanctuary 2, it had escape pods. So as far as we know, Valkyrie may have been getting people onto escape pods and kind of escaping with them in order to kind of like keep them safe for wherever they got to. In regards to Korg, he didn't want to go into any specific details, but it sounds like Korg probably got off too. But Valkyrie definitely he said escape pods. Like even if you go online and type it in, you'll see articles mentioning it.
Cool, fair enough. Good stuff. This one is a doozy, so I'm going to put this out to all of you. This one is from One, and it's a simple question. How did the heroes beat Thanos?
Has he seen the film? They didn't.
Well, we know at some point, the heroes are going to triumph, but in what are they going to have to do basically in order to do it? Because as we can see, the price of going against Thanos is very high.
You know what?
There's a,
Obviously, some form of sacrifice will have to be made as a standard, and it boils down to that. It boils down to the first thing. The first time when we see, like I said, I'm just obviously when I'm giving theories, it's just me just talking. It boils down to the first time when we're introduced to Thanos, and the thing that makes him smile when he sees this challenge, and is that, unless I'm getting it mixed up, but isn't he described in the film in maybe Avengers as to court Thanos is to court death?
No,
I'm sure that's mentioned.
No, you got the line the wrong way around. This
Challenge
them
them
talking about Earth under the Avengers. They said to challenge Earth is to court death.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah, all right, okay, yeah. So basically, so I got it wrong way around. Yeah, so he loves that. He sees that challenge. He's happy with that. So, in saying that way, he's looking at death as that challenge. So he's going to go down, and some of those Avengers are going to have to be sacrificed to bring others back. Cool. Some sacrifice has to be made.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't think you could. I don't think you could bring. Obviously, Black Panther. Did Doctor Strange go?
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, he did, didn't he? Man.
You sound like you're reliving it again.
Wait, who's left?
Yeah, I don't think you could bring as many people back as they're going to bring back without someone having to go like big time. And this is where I really reckon this may be Tony's out. This may be the way he gives himself up. And where with his narrative, where ever since the Battle of New York, he's just been haunted by this thing, it would just be like going out of that, closing this whole book, Tony giving himself up, like going through the wormhole but not being able to come out of it again. just at the last battle where it brings people back, it brings everyone back, it fixes everything, but someone's gotta, hold the bomb for it to blow up, basically.
That's a really cool idea.
I think Tony would take that because he's like, look, I set this all off, I did this, I have to fix it. And he's haunted, he's still haunted by that.
Yeah.
Still haunted by that. And he's worse now, especially watching Peter go.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Pete. He didn't want to go.
Yeah. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. I'm sorry. I don't want to go. I'm scared, Mr. Stark. Listen, that brought tears to my eyes as well, bro.
Okay, we've only got a couple more left, so we've got one more here, and I will throw this one to you, Nigel. This comes from Mikey B, and he asks, do you think it was too easy for Thanos to get the Infinity Stones?
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting. Was it too easy? I tell you what, in some respect, because as we were saying, like you don't see how he gets the first one.
Yeah.
So that's kind of he just shows up because he's already one up. So you kind of lose you don't see him earn it basically. I think that's the key thing. You want to see him earn each stone.
Yeah.
So you lose that a bit. One thing that did kind of annoy me slightly, right? So it's like going off on a tangent, going back to things he didn't like, is when they were all on Titan trying to get the gauntlet off of him, and he was kind of given an out with Peter Quill sort of reacting to finding out Gamora had died.
Yeah.
And I felt that was a kind of a let off because he was right there. They had him. And because of that unnecessary in a way reaction, he was sort of let off and given an easy out to sort of continue on his quest. So I didn't think necessarily, apart from the first stone, that it was easy, but except that moment where they had him and he was kind of given an easy out to sort of continue the plot, was slightly annoying to me.
See, I see what you're saying about that scene, and it does seem. What do you think it was an easy out and it didn't work, or did you just see it as a bit of an easy out?
It was an easy out. It didn't, because sometimes you need like a genuine reason why they couldn't get it off him. Yeah. And I wasn't totally convinced by that, because that reaction he could have just held, like Peter could have held that in until they got the gauntlet off, which they were doing. And then, whatever you want to do to him, then do it there. Because he knows what's at stake. So he surely can see that the bigger picture that they're working on right in front of him. So I wasn't totally convinced by him going, all right, forget that. I'm just going to start punching you now and mess this whole thing up for the universe. So I thought that was an easy out.
See, I'll tell you the reason why that scene worked, why it did work for me. In fact, we've never actually had debates, unless it's me and Alvin arguing. So apologies, Nigel. But I'll tell you the reason why I think it works, and it works specifically for that character, is because everybody has suffered some form of loss. But then Peter Quill, if you think about it, has suffered like a larger, like the longest loss compared to anybody else. So he's been in this game since like the age of 9.
Yeah.
And he's already lost his mum. He's already lost his dad. And those were 2 chapters which were closed with that duology of a film. And the last time we do see Peter Quill, he's a bit of a better man for this. So imagine now, the one thing that has actually showed you that you can love and live again is taken away by you. So I think it made sense for him to lose the plot like that, especially using him and not anybody else. Like, for example, Tony Stark, there would be he'd have like an emotional reason why he wants to take this person out.
Yeah.
But he's more level-headed than that. Peter Quill has basically just lost the last thing that, with him that keeps him sane. It's like when he has that whole argument with Rocket in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. And Rocket is like, why would I want to save the universe? And Pete Quill goes, because I'm one of the people that lives in it. And at that point, he sees the person that's literally taken the last thing that he loves and he wants and is his universe. And he just fucking loses it. So I think, for me, in my opinion, it works for him. And it wouldn't have worked for, for anybody else, because everybody still has something to fight for. Quill does the good thing because he has to, but because he's been taught by Gamora.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying. Like of all the characters there, he would have been the one to like genuinely have that reaction. I just feel like because he knows they're trying to get the gauntlet off him, which means that's working against him anyway. So I would have thought in my mind like his reaction would be like, oh, I hate you even more. Let's get this thing off, and I'm gonna hit you with the gauntlet or something like that, rather than let me jeopardize what we're trying to achieve at the moment. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
Peter lost Bear Dads.
Dads, bro.
Listen. There was bare kids after seeing that just dropping their Peter Quill toys in the bin like that. Fuck Peter Quill, man. Just messed up the game, man.
Shit. It's funny because you lot have both given two really great interpretations of that scene. Like, to me, for that particular scene, I just thought he did it because he's emotionally mature. He's a man-child. He doesn't really know, like, he's never, he's a character that I kind of fall in and out of love with in the MCU. There's times where I like him, and there's other times where I'm like, you're a dickhead, you need to grow up. He just behaves like such a little kid, and and I suppose when I think about it objectively, it makes sense that he would, because of the upbringing that he's had. But he still can be an emotional, like, loose cannon who will jeopardize things, and that's exactly what he did in that scene. He jeopardized the whole plan because he can't keep his emotions in check. He struggles with that. So to me, when it played out like that, again, it made sense to me because of who he was and because of the way that his character has been portrayed and the journey that he's been on. So yeah, it was interesting take to hear both of you.
In his defense, it was like the worst time to find that out.
That is true. Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're fucking up the whole thing. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but he's just found out that the green chick died. Well, I know her name, but I like calling her the green chick because she's green, but I know she's not green in real life. So it was like the worst moment for him to find out. So there was that, and it's like he said, it's that different description of that same moment where on one hand you're like, yeah, it's because it gives Thanos the out, but at the other side it's the emotion of him just finding out that after losing Bear Dads and he now lost the lady who's, like I said, normalized him in a way. So he just had the instant man-child response. By everyone.
Hold on. Sorry, I didn't get. Did you guys actually say he lost Bear Dads?
Yeah.
Bro, listen. I've only just clocked now,
Well, he has.
Lost Bear Dads, fam. Like Bear. It's like shit. How many? 1, 2, and a month. What? We could make a fucking sitcom about you. Like, my 2 dads and my mum and a talking tree brethren. Like,
well, we all know Peter Quill is the ultimate roadman, so he would probably talk about that, like his dad's in that way. Yeah. But sorry, Mike. To answer your question, no, I didn't think it was that easy for Thanos, to be honest. I think it did, as you saw in the film, it cost him. It cost him his relationship with Gamora, which we were kind of slightly led to believe that he was this absolute tyrannical despot who didn't care for anyone and anything, and yet when push came to shove, he felt genuine remorse and loss for for a person he considered to be his daughter, his child. And he says it at the towards the end before the finger snap moment when he kills Vision for the second time. He says to Scarlet Witch, my child, you have no idea how much I've had to lose today.
Yeah, yeah.
Even at the end when he goes to that strange place, I don't know where it is, but and he sees the younger Gamora and she goes, did you do it? And he said yes. And she goes, how much did it cost? And he says everything. It shows you that it wasn't a walk in the park for him. I think it was just the Russos trying to show just how much better he is than everybody else in the MCU, and that's why maybe he made it look easy at certain times. But yeah, I think it definitely cost him. So yeah.
Oh,
Remember,
here's a
Gamora killed him at one point.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah. She killed the Reality Stone version of him, but yeah.
hey, quick question, right? If this might create a paradox, but if let's say Thanos just gets enough guilty for killing his daughter, could he use the time gem to go back in time and then take her, but still keep the soul gem?
No, I don't think so. Because
When
I
he-
think what the Red Skull was saying is that in order to wield the Soul Stone,
Yeah.
you must provide a soul. So in theory, if he was to use the Time Stone to reverse time, surely that would invalidate the Soul Stone, wouldn't it? Because then there's no soul attached to that stone. There's no price that he's paid for it. So I would have thought the Cosmos would have figured out some way to pay him back for that if he tried to do that.
Okay.
No,
All right. So,
I think he has to do that.
okay. So basically, what you just said of so basically, one soul had to be sacrificed for the gem to work. That's correct, yeah? Or for the gem to be released, for the stone to be released. So do you think that stone basically has a soul anchored to it? Like the same way, like how Adam Warlock uses, whoever uses the soul gem, after a while, it basically starts to siphon the soul off you. And so after a certain amount of time, that gem, you have to basically take souls every so often to feed the soul, to feed the soul gem. Now, imagine if the soul that's anchored to the soul gem is Gamora, and what we saw with the conversation between him and Gamora having a conversation is that she's basically just haunting him.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could
Yeah,
be. I
I
mean,
don't-
that might well be something that we see in Avengers 4, because I think definitely that's as said, that was a big decision that he made.
Yeah.
And there's surely got to be consequences of that decision. So yeah, I could totally buy the idea that maybe because of the life that he's had to take in order to obtain and use the Soul Stone, that as a part of that soul is still attached to the stone in some way. So yeah, he probably will be haunted by not just his actions but by her.
Yeah. It would be
I
interesting
could
if
buy
they.
that, yeah.
It will be interesting if they kind of, in the same way they, I guess, merge some of the Hulk with the way he announced the arrival of Thanos, sort of taking over from what Silver Surfer had done in the comics. If they take how or the relationship between sort of Thanos and Death, with almost her haunting, if that's the right word, him, or only he can see her.
Yeah.
If they do that with Gamora, where she's sort of there haunting / taunting him, and only he can see her, and they sort of take some of that on board. That could be interesting.
I think that would be that would I would like that, because that would be in keeping with, because in the comics there was at one point Adam Warlock got sucked into the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
So again, that kind of idea of the world inside the Soul Stone. Very interesting one.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Definitely is an interesting idea. And yeah, I like that one, Rich. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out and see if how things play out with Avengers 4. But hopefully that answers your question, Mike. And we got to the last one for the evening, which comes to us from our good friend G, aka Young Turbo 2K. And this is hilarious, so I'm going to ask it to all of you. After Infinity War, where does that leave the DC universe?
Oh, wow. This is
Yeah.
I can tell you where it leaves them.
Hmm.
It leaves them trying to get the time gem off Thanos so they can actually go back in time, erase all the shit they've released, and start again.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you think if they get the time stone back, they'll try and kill Superman twice?
That's what, you know what? They'll change everything apart from that one line, which is Martha. I mean, that's how you know they're destined to fuck up.
wow. So yeah. I'm trying to think how to put this. All right. So the first thing I want to say is like probably my favorite comic book movie is The Dark Knight. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, just like as a disclaimer.
It's not your fault. Don't worry. It's not your fault. But carry on.
No, that's just gonna to balance out what I'm gonna say. So I hope that DC look at what Marvel have done and realize they can't just you can't just take advantage of an ensemble movie like this without putting in the work, the planning that Marvel have done. And because I feel like with Justice League, they saw what had happened with Avengers, thought, yeah, we'll have some of that. Let's put out this quote unquote film, Batman v Superman. Let's do a decent job with Wonder Woman, and let's just skip to the end. And they try to do get what Marvel have got without doing what Marvel have done in terms of actually thinking, how are we going to introduce these different characters? How are these films going to sort of work with each other to lead up to this moment? How are we going to get people invested in the characters? Like people who have read the comic book, people who have just, turned up to see an interesting looking movie. How are we going to get people invested in this universe? And they just didn't do that at all. So I'm hoping with them, seeing what Infinity War have done, they go pretty much back to the drawing board if they need to, and say, actually, if we're going to do this, we need to do it properly, and we need to think. Basically need to think. I mean, one of the things that I talk about sometimes with story is that stories are read sort of beginning to end, but actually made from the end backwards, so how it's going to end. And you see that with Marvel, they know it's coming to this point. Now it's a case of working backwards to what are the pieces we need to put in play to to satisfy this ending. So yeah, hopefully like DC kind of look at that and say, actually, what do we want a Justice League film to look like? Right now, let's work backwards to figure out all the steps we need to put and just do a better job.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've all been hoping for. Alvin, I mean, in terms of like Infinity War, do you think anybody at Warner Brothers has been watching Infinity War and has thought, wow, like this is the culmination of 10 years worth of work? Or do you think they just looked at it and went, well, we're doing Gotham City Sirens anyway, and New Works, fuck it.
See, what I like to think is going on at Warner Brothers right now. I don't know if you remember that downfall meme. Where it's That's what I reckon's going on. Like he's fucking, well, say he's, but it's not Hitler. But I'd be pissed. Like if I'd made shit decisions, I got Zack Snyder to direct these two movies and to step in and amend one of them. Wonder Woman was average, but people seem to fucking think it was like the second coming of comic book Jesus.
Because it was the only decent DC film by default, yeah.
And apparently people want an Aquaman movie, and then they're doing Flashpoint Paradox, but Flashpoint was like a big event in DC Comics when it actually happened, but they're just going to do it as like a one-off movie, and they're not even going to build up to that. So they just try to fucking take a shortcut, but it turns out that to take that shortcut, you need to be in a fucking big-ass Jeep or something, you know what I mean? And they're in a Mini. They've just like screwed it up, and they didn't want to do it the Marvel way because they didn't want to take the time. Thought they could rush it, and they put Batman and Superman in a film together, and Civil War did better than it.
Yeah.
in the same year. You know what I mean?
up.
It's like everyone knows Batman and Superman, and they somehow couldn't make that work. Like it shouldn't be like that. I want it to be equal pegging, like competition wise. You know what I mean? I want them to challenge each other, but we don't have that because they didn't take their time. So they shot themselves in the foot, and they also can't decide as to who they want to bloody head the freaking like think tank that they've got. 1 minute it's Jeff, 1 minute it's Zack Snyder, next minute it's Jeff Johns. Now apparently Jeff Johns is gone. So who's running things? Marvel have got Kevin. They've always had Kevin from the beginning.
Yeah, they hired another guy. I've forgotten his name now. But he worked on Legendary Pictures, and worked on a few of the properties there. So he now is the new head of DC movies, DC films. I think is what they.
You can't resuscitate a dead body. No, I'm not being fired yet. But look, come on now. Let's be real. Like, I feel bad for them. That's the thing. I like Young Justice is one of my favorite animated shows. Freaking Batman the Animated Series, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, flipping great. Even Justice League Action at the moment is really fun, although it's short form, 10 minutes. I like seeing DC stuff. You know what I mean? I like seeing the DC like animated movies, but live action, they just dropped the ball, man. Dropped the
Bruv,
ball.
bruv, you said you can't resuscitate a dead body. Bruv, listen. Hey, you're Thanos. You're Thanos straight.
like literally just strangling the life out of Loki. Like, no resurrection.
It hurts to say it, but I had to, man. It's just like...
Well, Mr. O, as our guest, I'll give you the last word on this one. So, any thoughts on whether DC were taking notes and where they go from here?
DC have to be sitting at, and the thing is, they can't, like, you can go to work and not see it, or be on the internet and not see a trailer on a website that you're on. It's literally in their faces, and they've watched it grow right in front of their faces. So on one hand, the one thing that before any films are even talked about, any bad direction, anything like that, DC already have to deal with the fact that Marvel started this thing time ago and have been weaving this thing from time ago. And it's like Nigel was just saying, where DC just thought, okay, let's just try and do our own version and put two things together. They put Batman and Superman in a film, fucked it up. That was their hoping saving grace of something that could have kick-started something that could, I won't say Marvel, but basically something that can equal or come close to the work that Marvel have put in. So now again they've got all these plans. They're gonna do Wonder Woman 2, apparently they're gonna do Aquaman, but then after Infinity War, do you really care about a guy underwater with a pitchfork? He's talking about another fucking moon at someone. The comic again telling me he's obviously gonna care about it and take time out for it, but can't even see the DC have a lot of work to do because they got a lot of work to do. A lot of work. And I don't even know if it's work that could be done because it's Batman's making this one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mad one there. Sorry, your line's gone a little bit quiet there, Mr. O, but we managed to get, I think, most of what you were saying. But yeah, that's it basically. The to answer your question, G, where does that leave them? It leaves them with a lot of questions and a lot of soul searching to do.
Yeah.
Bottom line, that's basically what we're saying here. They need to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. But then, you know what? I don't even have faith that they're going to do that. I mean, those of you who've been listening to us for a while know that we don't really have much faith that they will either, because the evidence suggests that they're not. So, they keep on taking the same approach that they have done since they started their cinematic universe, which is let's just throw lots of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And I expect them to continue doing the same thing, and maybe they'll luck out and hit on a Suicide Squad that's a box office hit, and maybe they won't. That's
And
what
get an
they'll
Oscar.
continue to do. Yeah,
They do have an Oscar.
an Oscar.
So, like, what actually,
Wow.
I'm going to take back everything I just said, because what do I know? They've got an Oscar.
Yeah. That seems to be the future for them, really.
In saying all that, from the last thing that I really heard about DC was that there are going to be 2 different Joker films. Their chances aren't warm right now.
No. No, they're definitely not.
I have a feeling that they're probably going to release something quite quaint and charming.
Wow.
I saved it.
Well, congratulations, Mr. O, for working that one in there. All right, well, that's it, man. That's all of our audience questions. So thank you to everybody who got involved with the audience questions. It was great to have them, and hopefully we've kind of given you some stuff to think about. And yeah, thank you to everyone who's listening to the podcast as well. Thank you for continuing to follow us. As I said a couple of podcasts ago, there are a few developments going on with us, so you will hear about those very, very soon. So stay tuned. Some exciting stuff is going down for us. And yeah, we will continue to grow and keep doing what we do, which is talk shit about comics and movies and games and everything else that you love. So stick around. It's going to be a fun ride. All right. Before we go, Mr. O, thank you very much for coming along and joining us. As I said, hopefully this won't be the last time we hear from you on Wulong Talks. I'm sure you'll be back. But for those who don't know you, can you let them know where they can find you at if they want to chat to you online?
You can find me on Instagram. That's Mr. Mistero and 5 H's. My book is out. Beware of the D. It's out now. Amazon. You can find me mro.co.uk. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Peace and hair grease to everyone.
And Nigel, thank you again for coming along. It's always a pleasure to have you. Just remind everybody where they can find out about Mayamada.
Yeah, the best place is our website, mayamada.com. It's MAYAMADA. You'll be able to connect with us on social media as well, on Twitter, Instagram. What's the other one? Facebook. Yeah, that's it. We're on that too. And we're also going to be giving away one of our manga on Free Comic Book Day because we're doing a Kickstarter. So we're giving away a free comic to people that sign up to our newsletter on Saturday, the 5th of May, if this is out by then.
Awesome.
Cool.
Please. Can I also say shout out to Yellow Rage? She's one of my clips. The clips are coming soon. That's the Clever Ladies Investigating Terrible Situations. That's and Beware of the D Nights also come in. Watch out for those.
Cool. Wicked, man. Well, what I'll do is I'll make sure that we have links up for all of that on the website. So listeners, if you're listening to the podcast on SoundCloud or on YouTube, make sure you hit those links. We'll include them there. And you'll be able to find out a little bit more about what these guys are up to and what they're doing as well. All right. That's it, man. Let's say goodnight and put to bed Avengers Infinity War and until we go and see it for like 3rd and 4th times on Friday and so on. So until then, I'm going to say goodnight. Rich Kid, say goodnight.
Good night.
Big A, say goodnight, bro.
Good night.
And it's a good night for me. We'll see you later, people. Take care of yourselves.
God bless you.
Yes, of course. Yes, indeed. Take care, people. We'll see you on the road. Peace.